We are live. Welcome to the Safe House, everybody. It is 5:59 Pacific Standard Time, and we are about to settle in and have some good conversation, right? My cohort here, my co-host here is playing with all of the sounds and toys. Introduce yourself, darling. Listen here. How are you liking your toys?
You guys got to listen. You guys got to get yourselves one of these. Legit. I mean, this thing is the truth. I could do anything with this. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How are you guys doing this fine evening?
This fine evening. Hey, Wyona, how are you? Look at Wyona is in the house. I love the punctuality. Hello, Catherine. How are you? Welcome to the Safe House, guys. I'm so excited. You guys are like on time. You guys are the ones that don't run on Indian time because it is 6:00 on the dot right now.
What up, my peeps? What's up? How y'all doing? So, okay, here we go. Here we go. I got something to say to you. You know who you are.
OMG.
So we're gonna have David Hill on here tonight, and I'm just gonna be playing with my toy right here because
we are gonna have David Hill on this evening. I'm having a hard time a little bit hearing you, Sir Sean.
Me? Can you hear me better now?
I can. I wonder what's going on. I'm gonna do this real quick.
Should I put my face closer to the mic?
No, I just need to turn my media volume up higher.
Can everybody hear me okay? I don't know.
Testing.
Breaker 19.
Testing 1 2 3.
You heard it there. You heard it there first, ladies and gentlemen.
You two motherfuckers need Jesus.
So check this out, man. There's been a lot of we like to talk about activism because we're young and we like to get kind of rowdy sometimes, right? So hopefully David
Speak for yourself.
Oh, there he is. Yes.
There he is.
So our buddy David Hill is going to jump on here and he's going to talk about his life experiences and what he knows to be true activism, right? And how to do it in a righteous way. Because one thing that I see going on a lot lately is we sell our integrity out in order to get, what we think is change made. We've turned a lot of our issues into hashtags, keyword performances. You know what I'm saying? And for me personally, right, coming from Indian country, I feel not only do I feel disrespected because you don't have a place to really be speaking on that, right? But I also feel like it lessens, it makes people used to what we got going on. So now it's just, there goes another Indian talking. You know what I mean? So we invited Mr. Hill on so he could share some of his experiences with us. He's very very
absolutely
different. So how you doing, my brother? How you doing tonight?
I'd like to do a proper bio intro, Mr. Hill. Thank you for being with us. No, you're good. You're good. I just want everybody that might be watching in our audience to know that this evening our special guest is Mr. David Hill. He has been an activist for most of his life, a member of the American Indian movement since 1972. He has been involved in numerous direct actions and events in terms of occupations, takeovers, marches, rides. He has also been a member of the Leonard Peltier Defense Committee. He is just this pillar of, activism and knowledge that we wanted to bring on and kind of talk to him. He's done speaking engagements all over the world. So Mr. David Hill, thank you so much for being with us this evening in the Safe House. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, and I'm honored to be your guest.
Well, thanks for coming on with us. Babe, did you want to open it up with some questions? I know you had some burning questions for David here.
I did, but I got this toy, man. I wanted to play a good sound effect for him, but I can't find one. So
He got the Stream Deck, so of course he wants to make sure we do you all the honors. Oh.
So you and I, we've spoke before off screen, and I've shared a little bit about myself with you in terms of some of the things that I've been involved in. I've never really truly been involved in activism necessarily, right? I've never been involved in anything quite organized or anything like that. It's more like, a friend, she went missing. Somebody was being held hostage. Somebody was being, somebody was chained to a support pole one time. And that's when I get called in, right? But lately, since we've been on Maya and I, we've been on the social media, like really trying to spread awareness and spread knowledge and like all kinds of stuff like that, right? We've noticed this uptick in this new form of activism. It seems to be social media led, right? And so just from a perspective of like the dangers that you've been in, right? How do you feel about this?
About the movement now, you're saying?
Yes, sir.
I wasn't sure I understood the question. But I think being I don't really identify as an activist to myself. I feel more like I'm a citizen that saw a need to be involved, and so I got involved. And I think all of our people should have that same frame of mind. And once you get involved, sometimes people are requesting you to come and help or do something. And so that's kind of how I got started. I think AIM mentality started in grade school when some first grade, some boys said, "Hey, Indian, what's your name?" And we ended up in a little scrap over that. It was, I didn't want to tell them my name, and they insisted, and so we had a little scrap over that. But I think it's important that each one of us can do what we can in our time from wherever we are. And it may be rescuing some young lady. It may be defending someone from being thrown out of their home, or stopping a pipeline, or some measure of corruptness on a reservation where you have a corrupt administration that's taking advantage of the people. It may be stopping a corrupt cop who is harassing Indian people and hurting them. So it just depends on what the situation is. And I think what's really important for every person is to develop themselves in terms of how to take care of themselves. Traditionally, our people, we took care of ourselves. We didn't depend on federal funding from anything. They forced us into that. Generations of forced, I guess you'd call it like forced welfare in a way, but we always took care of ourselves. And, I think it's still a tradition that we need to follow, is do everything we can to develop our lives so that we can take care of ourselves. That's physical, mental, spiritual, social, economic, whatever. The environment may have changed, but it's still our responsibility. And once we can do those things, then we can join together with other people to combat the intruders' oppression of our people. And like we were talking earlier about takeovers, we didn't have any takeovers. We had standoffs. We're at home. We're in our own land. And so we never had a takeoff. When we try to stop a pipeline, that's coming across our land, our sacred area. When we try to stop a corrupt tribal chairman who's funded by the federal government to try to take uranium and oil and gas and coal and all those resources, when we try to stop them, that's on our land. That's our choice. And so you learn to defend yourself on whatever level you need to, and join with others who can do the same. Did that answer your question?
An important An important cornerstone would be sovereignty, tribal sovereignty, and self-determination. Can you hear me okay?
Uh, I can't hear real good. I got a little cheap phone here, so it
Okay.
isn't very loud. But, I'm fine.
So you
Yeah,
mentioned
tribal.
obviously tribal sovereignty and self-determination. One of the biggest obstacles, I think, to that is the infighting that we see in a lot of our communities and amongst each other. Did you find that there was this amount, or did you find the same type of infighting within the movement in the 70s as we see now? And how would you suggest that we fight against that type of, pettiness, infighting, not participating or collaborating with each other to get the things done that we need to get done in order to advance, indigenous issues?
Well, that's a tough one, and I think it's been there for generations, and I think a lot of it was propagated by the invasion in our country before. Like, for instance, I'm Choctaw and Chickasaw, and the Choctaws, Chickasaw, Seminoles, Creeks, and Cherokees lived in the southeast, and the way they settled their differences was with a stickball game. It was called Little Brother of War, and sometimes there might be 500 people on the field, and two or three might have got killed, but that was not like a bloody war where people went out and killed each other and stuff and fought and fought. Whoever won the game, that they won the argument, or the the differences between the two tribes, whatever it was. So that's why we settled our stuff. And the Plains tribes, I, in talking with them and reading their history and stuff, they weren't really, you know, the Europeans come over and say, well, you all fought back and forth and did all this stuff and conquered each other. No, we didn't. War had a level of respect to it. People would count coup on people. Is more honorable to slap somebody on the head than it was to kill them, you know. And but I think with the Europeans came, they started this divide and conquer thing. Even within own tribes, they divide and conquer. Within own tribal nations, right now they divide and conquer. And we need to start teaching our children about that. And boarding schools was a situation to where, and they do that in the prisons, and they do that in the military. One person makes a mistake and they punish everybody. So what they try to do is promote people to tell on each other, or promote people to not have loyalty to one another. And you have generations of that where they destroy the family and everything. Now, I was fortunate up to from about 7 years old till about 12, my father was in our household. And he would give us a spanking. I shouldn't even call it a spanking. He would give us a whipping with a belt for being a tattletale, or something like that. And we were taught to respect each other, and the boys take up for their sisters, things like that. And but I remember asking my father about things like that when I was a kid, and he said two of the worst enemies of Indian people was alcohol and jealousy. And it got started with boarding schools, and it's still out there. And and you have a lot of people who grew up in bad situations and stuff, and not being appreciated, and so they have some probably not realizing it, or get caught up in individual dissension and differences with each other. I remember when I stole this from a guy. He said something once, and I always remembered it. And I said, I'm going to use that. And I was working with this other electrician in a tunnel, was hooking up some pipes and stuff. And at lunchtime, he had talked about some guy named Arliss that he didn't like. He really didn't think much of Arliss, and was working along there. And he says, hand me that wrench over there, Arliss. And he was a big, heavy guy that used to be a major football player, and he was all muscular, but he had a big old belly on him. He was real self-conscious about it. And I said, okay, fat boy. And he goes, fat boy, you call me fat boy? He got mad. I said, oh, fat boy, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. He said, don't flatter yourself. You're not smart enough to hurt my feelings. And I always remembered that. And I've said to that to, I don't know how many times I've said that to myself when someone's trying to insult me or something, you know. And so, you know, we need to develop our own little personal survival skills, coping skills, healthy leisure activities, and things like that. And learn to defend yourself physically, mentally, spiritually. Learn how to redirect force rather than fighting force with force. For instance, fighting force with force on a speaking level, someone might saying you're a no good something, and you say, well, you're a no good something. That's force versus force. But redirecting force, you might say, well, I can respect that you feel that way, but could you tell me why you feel that way? Maybe we can become friends or something. You know, just some way to turn that around and you know, find some kind of common ground rather than just always force against force.
If I might
And
interject, I'd like to say
what'd you
something.
say?
I'd like to interject real quick, right? Because
Yeah,
can I be heard okay? Because I don't know about this microphone. I'm good. Okay.
yeah. Mine,
So I mean,
mine's not very loud.
sometimes you come up against people, right? I mean, it takes all kinds to go make the world go around. There's all kinds of people out there in the world, right? And we're always going to bump and clash with different personalities and stuff like that, right? And so there's going to be some infighting, right? But I think it's important that we do recognize that. But I think it's important that we all understand what you're saying is. I feel like what you're saying is like it takes all kinds of different paths to get the objective that we're trying to obtain, right? And it's right or what? Did you hear me? Okay.
It takes all kinds of people to meet all kinds of problems. Everybody has different skills and stuff, but if you're going to be seriously uh, confronting an enemy, that our enemy basically is not a color of a person. It's people with a lack of knowledge of history, of low self-esteem. They have a lot of people have uh, a greed ethic that is beyond what it should be, and so we have to confront those no matter where they come from. But developing the skills to do that. Uh, you know, at one time, people could say, well, he's a warrior. He can shoot a bow, or he can shoot a gun, or he can shoot this and that. Well, a warrior takes many faces nowadays, and the enemy has many faces. And your enemy may be wearing a policeman's uniform or an army uniform, or maybe a politician, or it may be a school teacher, or it may be just
They often are.
another guy. But so you need a lot of different skills, and you need to utilize whatever uh, people you have with you. In a lot of programs, they'll call somebody like he's an AIM director, you know, something like that. I never did really like that director. That was kind of a colonizer word. Same way with the word chief was a colonizer word. But when you're leading an AIM chapter or something, you really, what you are is a coordinator. You coordinate the resources that are available, and you seek resources to help the people. So you're not really directing people. You're or you might direct them in some way if you have some expertise that they don't. Here's how to write a proposal. Here's how to get a grant, or here's how to talk to a policeman, or here's how to do a press conference. There's skills in all different kinds of facets of being an activist or doing activist type things, or confronting someone who wants to hurt your people, take advantage of your people, exploit your people, and you know,
But it sounds
developing
to
those
me
skills.
like, so I don't mean to
Go ahead.
interject, but it sounds to me like what you're saying though is activism is actually in the word itself, action, right? It's more
Yes.
than just a TikTok video with a red handprint over your face. It's more than just, you know, a tweet or a Facebook post or whatever the case might be, right? Like that, and that's kind of the point that I was trying to get to is like, you know, you guys were out there, you guys were legitimately physically confronting, you know, whatever it was that stood in your way in order to get, you know, the objective that you guys were trying to get, right? You guys didn't do it through mail subscribers and phone calls and stuff like that. You guys hit the ground running. I remember you was telling me, I think, didn't you tell me that when you guys first started off, on I can't remember where you said you were headed, but you guys started off with only a handful of people, and along the way you ended up with, like, you know, hundreds of people by stopping and getting involved in tribal communities.
That might have been when I was talking about the first longest walk. It started in
Yeah.
California. Dennis Banks and Lehman Brightman and a number of other people started it. And by the time it got over into Arizona, it had probably quite a few people in California. But when it got over into Arizona, and they're walking all the way, and they got into Utah, Dennis got in touch with me. He couldn't leave because he was in exile from South Dakota fighting extradition. And Governor Brown had not allowed the governor of South Dakota to extradite him out of California. So he couldn't stay with it. And I don't know what Lehman Brightman was doing. I think he was a professor at a university, but he was also a really good activist and a great speaker. And anyway, they got into Utah, and Dennis got in touch with me, asked me to help him across Utah. So I did. And they got over into Utah, Colorado border. He got in touch with me again and asked me if I'd help him across Colorado. And at that time, there was about 65 people. And they had a lot of internal dissension going on. And that was in 1978. And that was probably the first time I ever got a real good taste of having someone mad at you for no reason, you know, and dealing with rumors and stuff about people and stuff like that. And but anyway, we worked together, and there was a number of really good people came on board. But by the time I was only going to be there for 3 days or so, help them across Colorado. I ended up being there for 3 months, and I got to Marion, Illinois. It was like kind of like Standing Rock. It kind of developed a life of its own by then, and Russell showed up, the Belcourt showed up, a bunch of different people showed up to help coordinate and do what I've been doing. And by the time I got to Marion, Illinois, we had 600 people, from 65 to about 600. And so going in, I
What do you
left.
attribute that to?
What's that?
What do you attribute that to? What do you attribute that growth to?
Well, when we were traveling across the country, AIM at that time had really gotten a little bit of a bad name here and there, you know, not because we'd done something real bad, but because to identify as AIM, it would cause political problems for the tribal people. Um, Once you've physically fought back and stuff like that, uh, it just our people basically our people are live and let live minded people culturally and traditionally, and so uh, some people had a little bit of difference with this. And so as we were going across the country, we were not. I know for myself and others, we were keeping the AIM leadership part quiet. We weren't talking about AIM. We weren't talking about Wounded Knee and stuff like that. And one of the things that helped, I had developed I used to be the director of an Indian center, and I also ran a youth drug program in Oklahoma City. And I was a director of an Indian center in Salt Lake City. So I had some contacts, and I contacted some church people that I had worked with once before. And they set up speaking engagements ahead of us, and they would bring donations and potluck dinners. And so all the way across the country, we were getting supplies and help. And when we come into a town, people would come out and walk with us and stuff, and it got bigger and bigger. And the bigger it got, the more coverage in the press and in newspapers, more people came. It was just like a Standing Rock, you know. When after a while, it develops a life of its own. But one of the biggest helps was getting help from the churches, and also at that time there were 13 bills of anti-Indian legislation pending in Congress, and most people didn't know about that. So we started talking about that and getting more of our people involved. They wanted to abrogate all the treaties. They wanted, you know, it just was no end to it. They wanted to basically do away with us as a people. And I'd like to say too that it wasn't just the walkers that made a difference. There were people in Congress fighting this also, but we were bringing more attention to it and getting more people on board and a public outcry. And we're getting people to write their congressmen and their senators and stuff. So all of that made a difference. And right after that's when they passed the Indian Religious Freedom Act, the Indian Child Welfare Act, um, uh, a number of acts like that to protect our people. And the thing is, we have to protect those. You can't just say, "Well, we got it," because they'll go to Congress and go to the Supreme Court and get them overturned, kicked out. And they're working on it now as we speak. They're trying to do away with the Indian Child Welfare Act. That's the one that says to try to keep Indian children in Indian families. But
You want to talk about that a little bit, baby? Talk about ICWA a little bit so we can.
Well, historically, I mean, if you go back just not very far, they used to sell Indian children like you'd go buy a dog at the kennel. You could I've seen some old posters from a long time ago where you could buy an Indian child for $10, you know, and then you had there was child trafficking, you know, and there was sex trafficking, everything against Indian people, and that's some of that still goes on, and they would take children from children homes and put them in white homes and give them away and adopt them out and stuff like that. And all kinds of things would happen to them. They would lose their culture. And also some of them would, they get into the other culture a bit. Then they had no loyalty to their people, no loyalty to the land. They'd sign off on things. You know, it was just a continual attack on our people through our culture, our traditions, our treaties. For a long time, our people didn't feel like our treaties meant anything. And I think one of the most landmark decisions recently was the McGirt decision, where they decided that the 5 tribes in Oklahoma, Choctaws, Chickasaws, Seminoles, Creeks, and Cherokees, their treaties are still valid. And that also affected all of the other tribal nations also, that they should have that same recognition that their treaties are still valid. The Constitution, I think it's Article 6, I don't know what section, but it says treaty law is the supreme law of the land. And, you know,
And now look where we're at. I mean, now it's being challenged. It's being challenged on the, you know, the very foundation I think is going to end up shaking sovereignty for all those federally recognized tribes right now, right? I think that if ICWA is overturned, then naturally sovereignty is going to be next. Our sovereignty is people, right? I've talked about before how I think you and I even discussed this, how there's organizations, anti-Indian organizations that are getting behind this lawsuit in order to overturn this specifically so that we will lose our sovereignty as Native people, right? And for me, like I've told you, I think about my son and I think about his children, right? And I'm legitimately worried about my son's future and my grandchildren's future as a Native, right? Because we have big oil companies that can dictate, you know, what goes through tribal land and what doesn't go through tribal land. Foreign companies on top of that, right? That should be, you know, thought of. Like, we allow a foreign company to declare eminent domain in the United States of America, right? As long as it's on tribal land, right? They're constantly taking our freedoms from us. Every day you live on a reservation, man, you interact with the tribal policemen, right? They got something slick to do, something slick to say, whatever, right? And, you know, being on for my res, right? Everybody's pretty complacent. They kind of do what they're supposed to. You know what I mean? They really try to keep things hidden, but because they don't want the stuff to pop up like back in the 70s and the 80s, or maybe because they're damaged from the residential schools and stuff like that, right? They've learned to kind of stay in their lane. There's not a lot of people, the younger generations, especially on the reservations, are getting more off into drugs than they are into anything else, right? And it's just like, I wish our people would listen to you, man, and just like really fight for what's ours, because if we don't fight, we are going to lose it.
Lose it, yeah.
And then it's just going to be Indians again.
Yeah, that's true. If you don't stand up for what you have, we not only need to stand up for what we have, we need to regain what we lost and protect the future for our children. And uh, it's important too that we educate the non-Indians. The Supreme Court making that McGirt decision, recognizing our treaties, that didn't just happen overnight. And that wasn't out of all of a sudden they had a kind heart or something. Those people grew up in the last 50 years hearing about Leonard Peltier, hearing about Wounded Knee, hearing about the treaties. People, Dennis Banks, Russell Means, all different kinds of people all over the country talking at colleges, universities, high schools about treaty rights and the United States keeping its word. All over the world, America says, oh, we are the honorable people, we protect human rights and stuff. Yet right here in America, this destruction of our people has been going on and it's all about money. If you want to know what the problem is, follow the money.
That's the truth.
This government is complaining about Ukraine. Well, let's see what's happening at Ukraine. Russia's invading a country, and it's about resources and stuff. Ukraine produces 25% of the world's wheat, and they have all kind. They make gasoline and all that kind of stuff. They have lots of resources, and Russia's invading there, and they want to invade. They want to take it over. They want to make those people part of their country and have them go to their schools. They want to be in charge of their government and all that kind of stuff. That sounds familiar to me from an Indian perspective. And they're just doing what it's done over here for centuries, for a couple of centuries now. It's been happening to us. And, I was thinking today about how our people have like in special forces and all the different special forces of different branches of government, Native Americans per capita are represented more than any other group in special forces, soldiers and stuff fighting for this country. But, when you think about it, because that was the objective of boarding schools. It was an orientation program. It was a program to get us to think like they do their bidding, and make soldiers out of them. We fight for this country, but then we go over and fight in Vietnam and fight a bunch of people in their villages, or we go to Iraq. They had no reason to invade Iraq. Of course, there was money there. There's oil wells and stuff. There was
always money.
Yeah. It was a bullshit story, I should say.
Let me point something out real quick for the audience, right? I think it's very important that people realize who taught these white folks how to fight. I'm just saying, right? They used to line up and shoot at each other from ditches, and we hid behind trees and shit, shooting with our bows and arrows and stuff, right? So when you talk about guerrilla warfare, let's just keep it in perspective that we did teach the white folks how to fight guerrilla warfare style, right?
Yeah,
behind something for crying out loud.
Yeah. We taught them guerrilla warfare. We were a smaller group of people, but there was against the British, there was called the Battle of Fallen Timbers. It was Shawnee fought the British. 1,400 British and 800 Shawnee, and they wiped out all of the British. 800 warriors. And but what really wiped us out wasn't their ability to fight us, but the diseases that they gave us. Yeah, we had no immunity to their diseases.
Right. Wasn't you telling me like 99% of the native population ended up dying on because of first contact, right? Yep. They brought all their nasty, habits and disease, like you said, diseases and stuff over here, right? These people are used to dumping their poop in the middle of the road and like not bathing. That was a foreign concept. They thought we was crazy because we used to bite on twigs, chomp twigs down so we could clean our teeth. Like we had clearly superior hygienic habits than they did. I'm just saying.
Handed out blankets with smallpox, diphtheria, cholera, all that stuff. We had we decimated.
And I wish people would consider that. I wish people would consider it, right? Like here we sit in front of a man that did great things for our people, right? And here we are just sitting here, just bathing in what his sweat and his blood and his tears created for us, right? It's like activism now has gotten so we're afraid of the rubber bullets. We're afraid of, I mean, they got so many ways to wrap this up with terrorist charges and stuff like that, right? But you guys were literally putting your lives on the line. Dick Wilson was coming for you guys. Like I read a bunch of books. Obviously I was never there, but I read that, you know, in the spirit of Crazy Horse, I read just about every Vine Deloria Jr. book that he had wrote, right? And it's just, you guys seem to have gone up against greater odds than we go up against. I feel like we're so placated and we've been so spoiled over these past, 40 plus years or whatever, right? That we've forgotten what we need to be fighting for. Is that me?
Well,
My bad.
I think the young people nowadays are doing an amazing job of confronting things. And I think at some point, our people may end up in some situations fighting, but the enemy is smart. They're clever. They're not sitting around drinking beer and smoking pot or anything like that. They are planning. They're considering. They have graphs on statistics and stuff like that, and they have people out there, and they'll buy off some of our own people. Historically, that used to happen. They'd say it takes an Indian to catch an Indian, and they would get some of our own people to sell us out. And if they can't get you through the court system and they can't get you any other way, then they'll try to spread rumors about you and try to get somebody to kill you. I know this guy came here a while back and he wanted to talk to me about, the past stuff and the Wounded Knee and all that stuff. And so I did. And I had a big stack of FBI files that Leonard Peltier's attorney had gotten for me. It was about 7 inches high of it. And he copied all of them. And he came across one of them where they'd had a hit out on me. And I didn't even know it. I'd never read all of them. I just glanced through them, But they try to get somebody to kill you, just like they killed Martin Luther King. I mean, that's not. Was it that Malcolm X?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of different ones like that. They got them killed. Mahatma Gandhi, he got killed. It's historically that they put a jacket on you and get your own people to kill you if they can. So you have to watch out for that sort of thing. And I think it's pretty amazing that some of our young people have picked up the pace. And I think in time, if whatever it calls for, they'll rise to the occasion. It's in our DNA to survive. It's in our DNA to rise to the occasion. And I think as a people, we need to pay more attention to youth programs. We need youth programs extremely bad. A lot of the tribal nations, they have an senior citizens building, and they'll have maybe a small or youth center, maybe, or a gym. They call them, I forgot what they call them now, but it's a health center where you go work out and lift weights or something. And Chickasaw Nation has a martial arts program now. I don't know if any of the others do, but all of those things are important for young people to learn to defend themselves in every level. And even learning how to run a computer correctly, or how to look up things, how to fact check things, how to do a press conference. I've seen people doing a press conference. They get up there and say, well, what do you think about this? And they say, well, my grandma told me, and they go on and on about their grandma and how they got there and why they're there. When in actuality, you need to talk in sound bites, because after you get all that through that talking, they'll take maybe a few seconds of what you said and they'll pick out what they want to put out there. And so if you want to be used, talk like that. But if you want to use them, talk in sound bites and only stick with what you want to put out there.
Just to shift gears a little bit, right? I got an uncle who's in the movie industry, right? He talks to a lot of these natives that you see on movies and whatnot, right? And tries to give like some kind of historical or culturally appropriate representation of the way that they portray natives, right? But I was talking to him yesterday. I was asking him how he felt about, activism and ICWA, and the challenges or threats that produces, right? And he said something to me that I think that a lot of people should listen to, right? He said if we would work on healing ourselves, and if we would work on our spirituality, right? If we will, like, for me, it's sit with my tobacco, right? That's our most sacred medicine is tobacco, right? Is if we would learn how to get off of drugs, how to support our community, how to take care of our elders, how to take care of ourselves and our people, right? Then we wouldn't even have a need for ICWA. We wouldn't have a need for, the United States government in terms of, relying on them so heavily, right? In terms of, like, the corruption that they bring to tribal council, different tribal council members and stuff like that, because they make us fight over their resources and things like that. If we was to become more independent and more self-reliant and really work on our spiritual selves, right? Then that right there is the answer to a lot of these different problems that we have. And I'd like to ask you, what do you think about that?
Well, spirituality to me is, well, number one, it's a personal thing, but um, in our tribal nations, our people, our approach to spirituality was different than the invaders. Their version of spirituality usually is only sought after on weekends or something, like on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights or something like that. And they go and learn, and they learn and pray and read about some other man's vision, whereas our spirituality approach was where you were taught to seek your own vision and your own relationship with the Creator. It wasn't based on some other man's version of what uh, the Creator was to you. It was based on your personal vision and stuff. And some of our people may never have sought a vision, but they had all these other people around them that had visions and had thoughts and stuff, and they would seek them through prayer and fasting and flesh offerings and whatever. And so that was our approach to spirituality, and the spirituality gave strength to what we did, our how we conducted ourselves. And it's I'm familiar with Christianity. I'm familiar with Mormonism and elements of Buddhism and all this other stuff. And I liked what I think his name was Luther Standing Bear said once. He said uh, the white the Oriental contemplated nature. The white man tried to conquer it, but the Native American Indian, or indigenous Americans lived within it. And our spirituality wasn't on just weekends. It was every day, every part of your life. When you took the life of an animal, you said a little prayer for it. You give a tobacco offering for that life of that animal. When you cut down a tree, things like that. Every part of your life was based on spirituality. I remember when I was a boy, my father told me, he said, in our world, everything was medicine. Everything was medicine. A person, was his medicine good or was his medicine bad? You look at the person, what he did, how he conducted himself, the kind of life he lived. Was he good medicine or was he bad medicine? Was he using good medicine or was he bad medicine? you know and then of course some tribes have different things that they believed in. Some had a problem with owls, and some had a problem with coyotes, and different things like that. But we respected each other's vision. Four main stays of our culture was to respect the Creator, uh, your brother's vision, uh, uh, the Mother Earth, and our relationship with one another. Those things were all important to us. And uh, that in itself is a journey. Your spirituality is a journey. We have ceremonies certain times of the year, celebrating and being thankful for the animals and the parts they played in our life, the elements, how the parts they played in our lives, and the earth, and all those things. We're connected to them. The earth is the greatest manifestation of the Creator we have to relate to. It we don't feel like we were given dominion over the earth and we can just do anything we want to with it and destroy it. You know, that'd be like a some man give you a mansion and says, "Here, take care of this. You're in charge of it." And you tear out the plumbing and sell the pipes, and you tear out the electrical copper wire and sell that, and you tear out the air conditioning and sell that, and you get it all tore up, and then you expect him to, when you die, he's going to give you a better place, which may give you another body to and and a better place to live. That doesn't even make sense. But there's people who believe like that. They think the earth is just here to trash and but like in Christianity, if you read their book, and a lot of people miss certain things in there. It says in there when Jesus was praying, he says, "Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Well, I'm sure they're not fracking in heaven. I'm sure they're not digging up their golden streets if that's what they believe they have. You know, those things like that. And they asked him, "Why are you here?" He said, "I come that you would know life more abundant." Well, life is trees, grass, and water. You know, so
we got Dawn wanted to ask you a question, sir. Can you
yeah.
hear me okay, baby? Um, how do you develop an emotional force field?
How do you develop an emotional force field?
Yes. I got to
Um,
answer. Hold on. I got to answer.
Go ahead.
She wants no, I here's the answer again. Hold, can you hear this? You couldn't hear that,
I
could you?
couldn't hear that.
Oh, my toy. Dang it.
I'm sure she wants to hear David Hill's answer. He's all shucks.
Well, developing an emotional force field. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but developing internal strength is important. In the Oriental culture, like in Japan, it's called chi or ki, and in Chinese, it's called ki. Different ones. That's internal strength. They asked Jesus, "Where's the kingdom of God?" He said, "It was within you." All different peoples all over the world recognize that we have internal force fields, and those are usually developed through personal practice of something that develops self-discipline. Self-discipline comes from within, and you start teaching your children self-discipline when they're little, but and some don't learn it, so they have to learn it when they get older. But self-discipline is the most important thing you can ever learn in your life, is self-discipline. That's the foundation of being successful or good at anything, is self-discipline, you know. And
I
like
think
I've
that
told
I
my
think that what she's talking about is in terms of how do you make it so that you don't allow people to hurt you? You know what I mean? Like preventing yourself from getting hurt, like opening yourself up for other people to hurt you and stuff like that.
well, I think that comes with self-discipline. I mean, you can't always control your emotions, but you can learn to control what you do about them. You know, it's just and you can develop different coping skills on processing attacks of different types. You learn how to process verbal attacks, spiritual attacks, physical attacks, and I think one of the things that protects you the most is knowing who you are and being happy with who you are, and learning how to develop your own personal strength and self-discipline. And that doesn't mean your feelings won't get hurt, it but it does mean that how you react will be your choice, not theirs. Like someone makes you mad and you fly off the handle and you cuss them out and they cuss you out or throw things at each other or whatever, you know, that's that's not self-discipline, and they've obviously penetrated your force field. You know, when
Right.
they get you angry, they get you to react like that, they're controlling your reaction. And so to develop your own force field, that's a lifetime job, and it's also connected with your spirituality. And your spirituality is like a muscle that you have to exercise it. Like in our tribal nations, we had sun dances, we had sweat lodges, we had fasting, we had flesh offerings, we had go and do something that's difficult, like chop wood for somebody who needed it, or hunt for them, or whatever. All of those things develop your own special force fields and protect you from being, um, weak when someone's attacking you.
Right.
I think that for me, right, what I would say to something like that is also understanding your relationship with that person. You got to understand the person that you have this relationship with, right? Whether it's a familial, a romantic relationship, or a friendship, right? You have to understand the person that you are investing your time and yourself into, right? And you have to understand that your friendship it's for whatever reason, you know what I mean? You're their friend unconditionally, you know what I mean? So keeping score and like this person did that to me and that person did this to me and so on and so forth, right? I think that can create a lot of confusion inside of a person's heart and definitely create some clutter inside a person's mind, right? And it can definitely, you know, I think that's important. Thanks, David,
Well,
says Don Lawson.
well, uh, learning to control your reaction is probably the most important thing, because if you control your reaction, it's kind of connected to your mind and your heart and stuff like that. And as you travel in your life and you learn how to do those things, like for instance, one time I was staying at a friend's house for about 2 weeks, and they had a daughter there that was she had a lot of mental challenges, and it was real obvious in her. But she tried to be like everybody else. But she asked me one day, I was giving her a ride to school. She was about 13. She says, "What do you do when someone says something mean to you?" And I wasn't going to be around all the time, and I could tell her for every situation. But I said, "Well, just say, you sure know how to take advantage of my good nature." And so I had her memorize that. And it was kind of funny that a day or so later, I was going to give her a ride to school, and her grandmother was really hollering at her and telling her to hurry and get this and get that, and upset a little bit. I was waiting for her, out waiting for her in the car. She gets in the car and she says, "She sure knows how to take advantage of my good nature." But that
All
became
right,
one of her skills. And
we're getting ready to close her up, man. But let me ask you this last question. This fella asked right here. He says, "What advice? What advice would you have for those of us new to the movement?"
uh, learn your own history, learn your culture as much as possible. Uh, Develop your coping skills. Have healthy leisure activities. Study things that teaches you self discipline, and learn how to do press conferences. Uh, you know, uh, Study yoga, take martial arts or something. Something that helps you develop your own coping skills, because uh, a lot of times it isn't just physical sparring; it's mental sparring also. And you learn a lot of things from practicing self-discipline in different areas. Our people learned it naturally, and they had training programs for our people, and we had forms of martial arts and stuff. That's why the special forces and stuff, uh, patterned themselves after us. That's why the Boy Scouts patterned themselves after us. So we have a lot of culture there. I'd start by learning your culture, learn who you are, and take care of your body physically, mentally, spiritually.
All right. Well, listen, man, we really appreciate you coming on with us. Um, for those of you that are new to this group, you stumble on this, whatever, right? I just want to say something about that Facebook. First, let me say two things. One thing I want to say is personal, right? Listen, if you got a problem with me, you bring that to me. You don't put that shit on social media. You know what I mean? And then if you are going to put that on social media, you make sure you represent me the way that you're supposed to represent me, and that's truthfully. You understand what I'm saying? So let me say this, man. Like that platform that Maya and I created yesterday, that safe house, right? That's for grievances. If you have knowledge that you want to share, if you have resources that you want to share, We're looking to try to just spread this amongst all Indian country so that all you have to do is reach out and we can figure out a way to make something happen for you. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you got going on in your life. If we can help you, inbox us, let us know, and we'll try to figure out a way to get you the needs that you have, whether it's food, whether it's baby formula, whether it's clothing. You know, we don't have money, so we can't give you money. But what we do have is we have friends and we have people
Network.
that love us.
We have a network. Yep.
Yes. So, and then join our network. I would encourage people to join our network. Let people know what your skill is. If you're handy with, you know, construction, if you're good at carpentry or masonry or whatever the case might be, right? Let us know. Let us know. You like to draw, you like to talk, you're good counseling, you're good at, you know, drugs is a big thing for me, you know, because I just found out a fellow that I knew was found a couple of days ago by homeless people underneath a bridge from an overdose. Right. So if you know how to counsel people on addiction, you know what I mean? Let us know so that we have somebody in case somebody comes to us, we can send them in your direction. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And another thing,
Sorry. Our intention and goal is to uplift our community and bring, you know, a safe place for healing and for sharing, and to bring, you know, our communities together and to create unity so that we can, you know, foster forward movement, foster advancement in our communities, and really reach out and touch folks that might be in need of certain things. You know, that's really our end goal. Our intention is to provide a safe space for our people to come to and share and talk. And obviously those that have needs that need to be met, we have a network of folks that we can reach out to get the things that might be, you know, lacking in the home. Like Oja said, diapers, formula, baby clothes. I mean, you know, we would do our best to obviously make, you know, have those needs met as well. Did you want to say anything else, or
any parting words, sir?
Always be learning. Learn about your people, learn about yourself, and work at being the best person you can be. And watch what you eat and exercise and keep your weight where it should be. That makes a big difference in your life.
I'm a fat ass. I'm going to tell you the truth right now.
Well, you know, it isn't just the weight thing, but the things it takes you to do to maintain a healthy body also has carryovers into other aspects of your life. That's a reality. That's, you know, and also when you do things like that, you also become an example to younger people or other people, and you encourage them. So take care of yourself, eat right, exercise, take care of your spirituality.
A holistic approach. Yes, a holistic approach to well-being, right? We appreciate you, David Hill. We are honored and feel privileged, and it has been a pleasure to have you on our platform discussing issues and talking to us about your experiences within the movement. We hope to have you back again if you would be willing.
Don't let my goofiness put you off. I like to play. I got a new toy, man.
I try to be a good example where I can. I don't know how long I'll live or how long I'll survive all this craziness, but next year I'll be 80 years old. So I've been around a while, and I still compete with younger guys in several things and stuff. And so, you know, hang in there.
We sure you do. Well, thank you very much, everybody. This has been The Safe House. We hope you all enjoyed the conversation with Mr. David Hill, and we will see you all again next week.